Awesome. I'm here with Savannah Vilaubi, and we're going to do a little check-in before we get to final qualifying in just a few
Mhm.
short weeks. I can't believe we're already at that point. Can you
I
talk to me a little
know.
bit about how the off season's been treating you so far?
Yeah, so far it's been amazing. I mean, I say so far, but it's I feel like it hasn't slowed down since season ended. So, obviously we got a chance to host the Black Desert Championship with the PGA Tour here, and that was a ton of fun. So, as soon as we wrapped up in Palm Springs, we hit the ground running, and just it was all hands on deck for that tournament. So everyone seemed really happy with the way everything turned out. So that was a blast. And then I was able to take a few days off, not touch a club for a little bit, and then just get back into practicing. So this off season has looked like meeting with my trainer and getting to Black Desert to practice and going over some off season goals with my swing coach. And it's not really an off season. It still feels very much like preparing for the biggest event of the season. But even after Q series, we'll be continuing to work on those things that we've set out. So overall, it's just felt really productive in the gym, on the golf course, and of course, my it's funny I say my husband and I because we had a little courthouse wedding at the beginning of the year. Patrick Manning actually married us back in March, so there was like my parents and his parents, and now we are planning our actual wedding for January. So there's been a lot going on, but it's been so fun.
That's so exciting. Can you talk a little bit about the balance, kind of taking it more the personal route really quick? The balance between, wanting to stay fresh on the course, having, like you
Mhm.
said, the biggest event of the season, trying to get the LPGA Tour card, but also balancing wedding planning on top of that
My
and really just,
gosh.
living life and trying to find that work-life balance.
Yes, it takes some planning, a little bit of strategy. So what I have always done is just kind of like fall into the next thing and just keep it going. You can't afford to get tired, so you don't want to think about what you have to do too much. But what I have found is that if we want to keep a really good kind of life work balance, it does take some planning. So Hunter and I have a wonderful wedding planner, shout out Lauren, and I mean, we've been able to delegate a ton to her, and she's like the best in the business for event planning. So, yeah, it's been a team effort, but you have to, I'm setting up my practice and my gym routine around wedding planning, and that it's very simple. It's just you can't fall asleep because then you get behind, and when you have to cram like 2 or 3 days of work into a day or day and a half, that's when it gets a little bit stressful. So, we've just been Hunter and I have. I mean, he's been incredibly supportive during Q series prep and just helping with all the wedding planning too. So it's felt collaborative, and he and a few other people have helped keep me on schedule. So it's what it's looked like.
Amazing. You talk a little bit about just falling into the next thing.
Hmm.
Going back a little bit to Tour Championship, obviously not the finish you wanted to close out this season, but kind of falling into that next opportunity by being able to work the PGA Tour event at Black Desert Resort. How
Yes.
did that kind of help you? Not maybe cope's not the right word, but kind of fall into that next project and kind of forget about the disappointment and really start off
Yeah.
with a fresh foot for final qualifying.
To be honest, I think hope is a very good word. It's easy to dwell on, disappointing results. And I'm a huge believer, anytime I run into like a hiccup or something doesn't go according to my plan, I'm like, it's okay, Sav. God has accounted for this. It's totally fine. So, hang on. I have someone that wants to say, hello, hi. And this is our cutie patootie. This is
Oh,
Sky. She was outside the door. We hardly
I
ever
love it.
close the doors here. And so we might have to
She's like,
on a work call
Mom, what is going
downstairs.
on?
Yeah. Hi, cutie. So there's Sky.
Love a little puppy break.
Bless you. So yeah, and we've gotten to spend a lot more time with Sky. So we've had a dog now for the last few months, and she's like our first daughter, of course. Um, but anyway, so in regards to for Palm Springs, you go right into the next event, and it keeps your spirit up. I really, really like being in front of the camera. I like the idea of like hosting events and stuff. And so when I was given that opportunity with the Black Desert Championship, it was like, oh my gosh, this still kind of feeds the soul a bit, even though a tournament finish that I didn't like was discouraging. You go right into the next thing, and we got to celebrate something so fun, such as Black Desert hosting their first PGA Tour event and just being part of that inaugural tournament. So yeah, it surely helped me cope with the poor finish, and then you're able to, I guess, have a sober mind when you're making off-season plans. So, yeah, it was great. I was very fortunate actually.
And then talking a little bit about Black Desert Resort, you got to move out there and are now getting to experience Utah life. You've always been a West Coast girl, but getting to
Yes.
experience that Utah life, how does it help with the confidence knowing that you're training daily on a course that's hosted a PGA Tour event, will host an LPGA Tour event, and has hosted just various professional events, and that's just your everyday life?
Yeah, I mean, we're very lucky for that. I'm lucky to have the privilege of practicing and playing at Black Desert. Obviously, it's a very sought after golf course, so I mean, getting on there requires a little bit of strategy too, even on my end. But it's special. You get to practice on a course that maintain. I won't say exactly tournament conditions, obviously, because they cater to resort goers and they want them to come back, So but it's just shy of tournament conditions year round. So I get to practice there. And, I think a lot of golfers tend to putt better on faster greens. And I think when you have like the perfect playing climate, um, it's, I don't know, it just makes everything a lot more simple and you really don't have any excuses. So, the views out here aren't bad at all. So even though like you can, be hitting a ton of wedges for hours or doing your putting drills or whatever, like you look up and you're surrounded by beauty here. So we have the red rocks, of course, and the black lava and just the contrast. It's so easy to spend a lot of time here. So that's been a lot of fun. And we do have a pretty good temperature swing. So I will say in the morning, those practices are a little bit chilly, but I remember last year at Q Series being so uncomfortable with like the forecast. If it says like, oh, it's going to be 48 in the morning, I'm like, 38. I'm like, oh, this is nice. This is so great, especially when the sun's out. So those are kind of the intangibles, of moving to a different place outside of California that doesn't really have seasons. Yeah, so all in all, it's just been really, really good.
You're mastering the art of layering before we have to go out to Alabama and possibly layer like we did last year. Um,
Yes,
kind of
absolutely.
kind of in that same, reign, LPGA just dropped their schedule. Going to Black Desert in 2025, you're fighting for that LPGA Tour card out at final qualifying. What would it mean to you to get to play another professional event and this time it be home?
I mean, to be able to call Black Desert home and then play their inaugural LPGA event there would be a dream. So I am so lucky to have the support of all the people here. And they're like, Sav, we're already rooting you on. We want you to win this thing. We want you to do so well. So it's exciting. It's definitely given me a different source of inspiration going into Q series. It's like, hey, look, this is where I want to play. Obviously, you want to field an or you want to have an entire schedule of LPGA events, but this one in particular, it's definitely been an inspiration in just the Q series prep so far, and it would mean the world, if my family gets to come out here and experience such a beautiful place that we live now, and they get to see me in an LPGA event. So the goal since 2022, losing the card, has been to get back out there. And if I can put this Black Desert tournament on the schedule, that it would just be amazing.
I know we've talked about unfinished business a couple of times this past
Mhm.
year with, your husband caddying for you at the US Women's Open, getting that LPGA Tour card back, getting your start on the LPGA at final qualifying or what was Q Series. Do you
Mhm.
kind of feel like there's unfinished business going into this 2024?
Yes, and I think that unfinished business is what keeps me personally hungry. If I'm honest, I was just talking to a friend of mine yesterday about this, just the dynamic of winning and what happens after that. And looking at my track record, it seems like so much goes into tournament prep, and then when you get that tournament win, it's like, okay, you kind of exhale and stuff. But notoriously, I think I've just maybe let my guard down in the comfort, like I achieved what I set out to do. I won this tournament. And I want to say that it's really easy to just keep grinding day in and day out and win the next one and win the next one. But I mean, it is hard to maintain that fire. And so I think I was honestly maybe supposed to miss the cut in Palm Springs for the last event. Like, I needed that sense of unfinished business, I think, to really get focused about what I needed to do moving forward. Because it's easy to get comfy in the off season. You got Thanksgiving, you let the diet slip a little bit, you have the holidays and all that, and you get around to practicing, but it's like, girl, we got a big tournament coming up that you need to stay ready for. So, um, yeah, the unfinished business, I think, is a blessing.
Absolutely. And we've also talked about last year, Seiko Epson Corporation covering the cost for Q Series. This is the second year that you now get to reap that benefit. What kind
Uh-huh.
of pressure does that take off the prep and just the travel and everything of getting to final qualifying? Does it help, or how much does it help for that to be kind of like absolved?
Yeah, it surely helps. I mean, it's significant. There are a lot of companies, corporations who say, they're huge proponents of women's golf and huge supporters. But, in the end, when someone puts their money where their mouth is, it really does make a big deal. It's like, I know you like us, but I can tell you mean it. So, I mean, it takes a lot of pressure off because we have other expenses, of course, and just with travel and rental car, just all the accommodations. So when we get to not have to, or when we get to when we have this entry fee covered, I mean, that's significant. It's half the cost of the entire trip. So we're saving 50% just with the Seiko Epson sponsorship. And I think really for any girls who maybe were on the fence about even going to the final stage of qualifying in the first place, it's like the last thing you want to do is feel like you're so ready to go to that next level. Like you played really well during the season, you qualified for the final stage, and now you have to make a decision, financially, I don't know if this is good for me. So it's nice that you don't have to ration your opportunities, when you have such a big sponsorship like that. So, um, yeah, we're just very, very fortunate.
And then lastly, kind of shifting gears, some more fun questions. We're almost at that holiday season. Like you said, the
Yeah.
diet slip, everything goes out the window, and then you crack down and you got some New Year's resolutions. Is there anything about your game that you know for sure you're taking into 2025? And in the same sense, is there anything you know you're leaving in 2024?
Um, Shoot, that is a wonderful question. But as you say that, I think so. I have always, struggled with, and I'm sure other golfers have gone through this, but like staking the self-worth on every single golf shot. I'd like to think that I have done better season after season, and particularly this year of maybe the last 2 years of letting that go. And I think that that can stay in 2024. Like, and moving to Utah and having the opportunities that we have with Black Desert and like finding our doggo that has now officially made Hunter and I like a family of three. And there's so many other things to be grateful for. And, having the sponsorship by Reliance Matrix and having the support from Black Desert and, they're like for all apparel, and like feeling good on the golf course. Like everything in life has just been so good that staking your value on every golf shot, it makes things bitter. So I would like to leave all of that in 2024 and just finally be done with that. So that's going to be the 25 clean slate resolution.
I love that. And then really just going into that 2025 season, I know that, we've had many discussions about just perspective and kind of where
Hmm.
you're at. If you get your LPGA Tour card, or even if you don't, What is
Uh-huh.
the biggest thing that you think you've learned from the Epson Tour that you would take into next season, whether it's back on the Epson Tour or on the LPGA?
So the biggest thing, it was more so at the end of it, and I really wish that I would have done more of this earlier in the Epson Tour season. But I think the biggest thing that it's taught me is one, everybody is good, everybody practices, and so you hear it a lot, but you win a tournament kind of like between the ears, you know? So um, I've really I've worked on this off season and in the gym, on the course, on just using really, really affirmative language in doing in anything. Even if it's, trying to get out a last rep or I learned how to power clean just like a month ago from my trainer. And I felt like the most unathletic person in the world, and so I was, doing these cleans and with my trainer, I had his confidence. And so that was enough for both of us when we're in the gym. But then when I had to go by myself to the gym, I'm like, I don't want to do this. I'm better off not. Like, I'm going to look silly. And I did look silly and then just got like lazy about it. I'm like, I'll just leave it. And I was like, girl, use affirmative language. Like, you know better. Like, it works on the golf course. You should have used it more this season. And so I start saying things like, oh, this is normal for me. Like, it's normal for me to have 10 birdie opportunities in a round, or if you're on a birdie streak, you make 5 or 6 in a row. It's like, ooh, what if I don't make the seventh? But it's like, no, it is normal for me to make 7 birdies in a row, just like it is normal for me to perfect the power clean. Like, I move the bar with control. I am athletic. I am confident about this. And so it's kind of silly, but the Epson Tour has really taught me that one, everybody's good. So you best have some mental strategies that are going to give you that edge, because golf tournaments are won by a shot. And sometimes there's playoffs, and so it doesn't feel like a shot. And so it really matters the way you speak to yourself. So that is absolutely what I've learned this year. I won a tournament, so I've proved that I'm good enough, but I do think the self-worth was getting a little tied up in the golf shots. And at the end I just, I kind of got burned out by that. So whether it's Epson or LPGA next year, I will absolutely be using that affirmative language. And something else that I learned, um, just even talking last night to that same golf friend of mine. In my rookie season on LPGA, I felt like I was there out of luck. I felt like I had gotten lucky maybe in Q series, and there were other girls who deserved to be there more than I did. And so I wanted to shrink myself and wasn't confident to, take up space when I got inside the ropes or in player dining or whatever it is. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to make room for the next girl, for the next girl. But, this next season, I have to know that I deserve to be there and I belong there and I want to be in the winner's circle. So that's going to be part of the mentality too. And you can, even on Epson, like I maybe fell into that, maybe fell into that mindset a little bit where it's like so many other people are better than me, and maybe I just got lucky and won that tournament at Otter Creek. Maybe I got lucky and qualified for the US Open or whatever. So yeah, I think just the theme of next year is just going to be like thoughts and words matter.
I love that so much. Awesome. Anything you want to add about your off season and Q series, final qualifying, anything like that?
Uh, I mean, that was pretty much it. Gonna have my dad out there watching me for Q series, or final qualifying. Super, super happy about that. Yeah, I really, really don't have anything to add other than I'm looking forward to it, and just the last push before Christmas.
Yeah, totally. What does it mean to you to have your dad out there? Is he going to caddy for you, or is he just going to be out there to kind of be a moral support?
Moral support. So he's going to be out there and just watching his girl play golf, and it'll kind of be like the old days. My parents had taken me to all the junior tournaments growing up. And it was funny. My dad came and watched me play in college. I was a sophomore at UC Riverside, and we we took our spring break in Atlanta, and my dad had flown out for that tournament. And so he got there with like jeans and like a jacket, whatever. some cold front came through and it was like 30 degrees, 40 high, and blowing 35 miles an hour. It was raining sideways, and it's like, but he's still there. Like he had his poker face and his jeans and his hoodie and just watched his girl play golf. 36 holes, mind you, because that's what we did in college. So for 12 hours, this man was in 30 miles an hour, 35 degrees, just soaking wet, but just like couldn't be happier. So I mean, that's one of the things too that is maybe going to take the pressure off. Q school. Obviously, you want to play well, but like look around you, look at the support, look at the people who love you. And I think having my dad there is definitely going to be the reminder of that.
Awesome. That is commitment. And we will be sure to bring him an extra coat because if
Yes.
we get the weather we did last year, he is going to be freezing.
Right,
Um,
exactly. But
but
like dads don't
no,
get cold, right? Dads never get cold. They just wear like shirts and like, or
nope.
sorry, shorts and a hoodie and they're good, right?
Like you said, poker face,
Dads.
you know
Yeah.
internally they're struggling, but they'll never
Oh
admit
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
My
So
dad's the
funny.
same way. Oh my gosh.
Love it. Love dads.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I'm going to stop the recording